It's been more than a decade now since the deadly Twin Peaks shootout in Waco. The brawl between the Bandidos and Cossacks gangs left 9 people dead and 20 wounded.
More than 170 bikers were arrested, but all cases against them were dismissed. The bikers then filed civil lawsuits against the former district attorney and a former police officer involved in the arrests, as well as the city, the county, plus the former Waco PD chief and other officers.
News 10's Jessica Rajkumar is in studio with an update on what happens next for their cases.
Well, Lauren and Gordon, on that day, former District Attorney Abel Reyna had any biker wearing similar colors with the 2 gangs arrested. While all charges were later dismissed by Reyna and his successor Barry Johnson, the bikers filing their case say their civil rights were violated when they were arrested without probable cause. Reyna says he was acting within the scope of his authority, claiming qualified immunity from the lawsuit. Through the course of the lawsuits, the several cases against the city, county, former Waco PD chief, and other officials were dismissed, but this case has gone back and forth between different courts, and now a magistrate judge has recommended that the U.S. District Judge Alan Albright dismiss Reyna and former Waco PD officer Manuel Chavez from the lawsuit. On Monday, Magistrate Judge Derek Gilliland issued a recommendation that former DA Abel Reyna and former Waco PD officer Manuel Chavez should be shielded by qualified immunity from liability in the lawsuit. Officials are granted immunity from liability unless their actions are found beyond the scope of their authority. Documents say the plaintiffs could not overcome Reyna's defense of acting within his responsibilities as the DA, so Gilliland recommended Albright to dismiss the lawsuit. If Albright grants the summary judgment, the cases will likely be appealed again to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. If the Fifth Circuit agrees with Gilliland and Albright, then the lawsuits will be dismissed, and no one will be held responsible in Waco courts civilly or criminally in the worst mass shooting involving bikers in U.S. history. Tom Brandt, the attorney representing Abel Reyna, says they are pleased with the magistrate's recommendation and are looking forward to Albright's decision. Dallas attorney Don Tittle, who is representing many bikers in the incident, says that whatever decision was made, both sides would appeal the case up again to the Fifth Circuit. Tittle added that it's disappointing to see people who spent weeks in jail see no accountability and no legal recourse. In studio, Jessica Rajkumar, KWTX News 10.